Welcome back, everybody. It is January the 9th, 2020, if you can believe it. I had to wake up my assistant. She really didn't want to come in and help today, but it's sort of a tradition to have her come in and inspect the box. And she's already ripped open a hole. And by the way, I wanted to mention, just for those of you at home, that this box does have a few minor dents in it, nothing spectacular. I don't think that if there is potentially any damage to this guitar, it has to do with the holes in the boxes, because they're all just very superficial, but there's two on the top and there's one on the bottom. Today's new guitar day is something definitely off the beaten trail, since I was sort of sticking with the major guys, Squire being made by Fender, Epiphone made by Gibson, Gretsch. So I went off the beaten trail. This is a Grote guitar. Yes, Grote, G-R-O-T-E. It's a Chinese company that makes guitars, and they do sort of knockoff guitars, but they don't call them knockoff guitars. And this is a Grote, what they officially call the Grote Jazz hollow body guitar, and it's basically a copy of the Epiphone inspired by 1966 Century. And I've been looking at these for a while, and the price was just too good to pass up. I've already purchased an Epiphone inspired by 1966 Century, so this is a bit, I'm not even sure. Anyways, those of you out there who buy guitars sort of understand. The only comment I'm going to make before I do the official unboxing is that other people have commented, and I have to say as well, that it's pretty shocking to get a guitar, a hollow body guitar, a set neck guitar, packed like this. Most of the other people who've gotten these guitars have commented that the packing is pretty small. I don't know what to say, substandard. So I don't know. Who knows what's going to be inside? As per the other unboxing videos that I've seen, they do this massive tape job, so we're just going to delaminate. Sorry, our official mascot wants to get involved more than she needs to at the moment. But it is pretty surprising that they do as little packing on this guitar as they do. That being said, some people have had fairly good luck and the guitar came out of the box in fairly good shape. Other people haven't been quite as lucky. The other thing worth noting, that in all the guitars I get, one of the 7 deadly sins of shipping a guitar is movement, and this guitar is like moving around big time in the box. So I don't know if that contributed. Someone's got some comments here to make. Excuse me, gotta put you to the side. So others have made comments too about the very little bit of packing, and they're right. There's like, zippity doo dah, as you can see without. I guess I'll take the camera off before we even pull the guitar out of the box. We're talking minimal. Little piece of styrofoam here, little piece here, sort of sliding around. There is a piece of styrofoam for the neck, although it looks like it's sort of danced around. So there's a potential. There's a broken headstock on this guitar. I can't say for sure. I just say potential. So I'm going to pull it out, slide the packing to the side. Let me just put this on hold for a moment. Okay, we're back. For all of those who have a cat, the cat thinks the guitar box is the present. As others have commented, the obligatory rubber band. Again, this thing's not even fastened, so the fact that it moves might not be good news. You've got the cord. People have been talking about the picks. They spared me, so I just have 2 psychedelic picks. Won't even mention anything else about that. So without further ado, we're going to take this out and we're going to inspect it. We're going to look for the obvious trouble signs, which would be broken headstock, cracked neck issues. We can usually get through this pretty quick. I'm just going to feel it from the start. I don't feel any cracks on the neck. I'm going to look at it closer. I don't see any cracks on the neck by the nut, on the guitar. First impressions, it looks nice. You know, it's hard to say. We've got some string movement here. One of the strings popped out. So the bridge might have moved. The action is extremely high, which can be adjusted. In fact, I can even take that down a little as we speak. Yeah, so we're going to do sort of a forensic inspection, but on first impressions, you know, you have the typical, as people have talked about, for a budget guitar, it's certainly, you can't expect perfection. The fret ends feel absolutely wonderful. Some other people have been talking about, in some of the earlier reviews, that the truss rod cover was this sort of raised Grote metal, and this looks like just your typical black, which in many ways I think I prefer. Again, so I'm just going to keep yakking here while I do a closer inspection. So I'm going to be off camera for just 2 seconds. Just want to look and see if there's any signs of any damage to the neck. It doesn't appear to be. The joint to the body looks fine. I'm going to take a quick look at the inlay, and it actually looks, for the most part, rather good. There doesn't seem to be any excessive filler or glue popping out. This is all just first impressions. So yeah, it's pretty stunning. I'm going to go ahead and tune it up and let it just sort of get in its groove. Oh, it does actually have bound F-holes. Sort of rough looking, but hey, what do you expect? The wood looks really pretty. Again, it looks like they sort of ran it through the bucking wheel and just sort of did a, you know, speedy job. Knobs have a fair amount of resistance on it, which is a good sign. I'm actually surprised by the binding on the F-holes. I didn't think it had that. So yeah, we're just going to take it for a quick test drive. Again, it's January the 9th, 2020, which I can't believe it's 2020, but it is. So we're going to just take it for a quick test drive, and then we'll be back. We're going to let Kitty do what she does, because again, she thinks the box is the party. If we could all be so easily satisfied in life, we could just buy boxes every day and save ourselves a boatload of cash. So I'll be back. Okay, well, unlike most of my other videos, I'm actually going to do a 3-part video just because it's sort of late in the evening, early evening, and I have a few things I need to do, and then after dinner I'm going to play it. I played it for 5 minutes. It feels great. It sounds great. I'm guessing this has 10 gauge strings on it. Some people say 9. It feels like 10 to me per the scale. I just went over it with a fine-tooth comb as best as I could. I think the most immediate weak spot on this guitar in the coming days is going to be the output jack. It just feels very flimsy when you plug it in. And a couple other people have reported early output jack failures. Again, a couple of the things that sort of surprised me about this guitar, I'm going to look online, but it seemed to me that the ones that I looked at, the early ones, did not have binding on the F-holes. Maybe they did and I just didn't notice it. And it also seemed like they just had the standard jack, and this has more of a substantial jack on it. Which again, it may just be me. I may have missed it. I don't want to compare too quickly against the Epiphone Century. In some ways, though, this guitar just really, I don't even know what to say. It's just very surprising. And it's also, again, surprising that it survived the trip. I'm assuming when it comes over from China, it's probably in a big box with a bunch of other guitars. But this shipped from New Jersey, was thrown on a plane, UPS second day air, flew to Lexington, Kentucky, then flown to Billings, Montana, thrown on a truck last night, and drove through the night to get to me. And again, the most minimal of packing. I mean, at the very least, I would assume that they should secure this, because if this thing moves, and the headstock was actually sitting planted against the box, I am stunned. You can see where the strap just blew through that, and yet it doesn't seem to have any damage here. That's probably due to the fact that because of the way the tailpiece is set up, it's more substantial. On a regular guitar that just had this going straight into the back of the guitar, that may have just punched through the guitar, but this has got some push there. The visuals on the guitar, again, as a couple other people have pointed out, probably could have spent a little more time on the buffing wheel. There's a little bit of scratching here, a little bit of scratching there, stuff that doesn't matter at all. When you look at the price point of this guitar, and the camera doesn't even pick up the warmth. You have to sort of get away from the light, the influence of the light, to really get the warmth of the sunburst. It's a really nice sunburst. They did a really nice job. The back, I mean, obviously it's a plywood guitar, as you would expect. It has a nice mild arch on the back. The front, it's hard to tell because you can't really, but there's definitely a bit of an arch. So, first impressions, again, the action is a bit high, but maybe for this style guitar, that works. This string seems to be a little farther over than it pulled out again. So there we go. So there's an issue with the bridge. This string wants to pop out of its, so maybe I need to do a little adjustment on the saddle, but obviously if it's in the saddle properly, it lines up just nice. So again, I don't know how long they're going to sell these guitars for $169. This may be the hidden gem. This looks like it's a 2019 model. And again, unless I find something just drastically wrong with it at this point, I'm really impressed. But I will be back after dinner for more impressions after I spend a few hours playing it. So, and for the third time, for those who didn't get it the first and the second time, it is January the 9th, 2020. Hard to believe it's already 2020. And this is, as they call it, the Grote Jazz Electric Guitar. So we'll be back. Okay, well, we're going to conclude our new Guitar Day unboxing. And the official title of this guitar, I misspoke earlier, according to their website, is the Grote Jazz Electric Archtop Guitar. And here's my conclusion. Because I did buy an Epiphone inspired by 1966 Century, I can compare these side by side. And it wouldn't be fair to say that one is better than the other, because the word better is very subjective. But I will tell you this, I enjoy playing this guitar more. This guitar speaks to me. I just spent an hour and a half putting it through its motions, and I just really like the feel. I like the tone. It's quite likely that the Epiphone potentially is made with better materials. It may have better potentiometers. It may have a better output jack. Could have better tuners. The tuners on this are probably cheap as the day is long, but guess what? They tune the guitar up, and the guitar stays in tune, and that's all I need tuners to do. The pickup is probably the cheapest P90 pickup ever invented on planet Earth, but surprisingly, I like it personally better than the Epiphone P90 Pro, which is lauded as being this exceptional P90 pickup. This cheap pickup, for all intents and purposes, does everything that I want. I'm absolutely stunned by this guitar for the price on Amazon while they last, for $179. Actually $169. What am I saying? $169 with free shipping. It's unbelievable. The only thing that I'm going to do just to ensure that I'm satisfied with this guitar is in the next day or two I will pop off the truss rod cover and just check to make sure. One guy had mentioned that his truss rod didn't work. Another mentioned that his truss rod just spun around and wasn't connected to anything, so that would be a critical thing if the truss rod doesn't work. Again, the action's a little bit high on this guitar, but you know, for my playing, and again, keep in mind, you really don't do much on this guitar above the 14th fret, and it's a little high, but it doesn't really matter to me. I'm not a shredder, and I don't play a lot up there anyways, and in the lower part of the guitar, the action feels just fine. So we're going to conclude, once again, for the 4th time, just because I always like to make sure everyone knows that this is January the 9th, 2020. This guitar just arrived today. Again, I mentioned earlier, the packing job on this must be divine. There must be a blessing put upon these guitars. By all accounts, this guitar should have arrived in pieces based on what I consider to be the just abysmal packing. A single box with just the most basic bare pieces of styrofoam that, you know, the neck support wasn't even glued down, so again it was moving back and forth, and when I opened up the guitar, the headstock was actually sitting flat on the bottom of the box, which is just a death knell for an angled headstock. And it survived. And like I said, I do believe the weak spot immediately is going to be the output jack. A couple people have already said that their volume and tone knobs have gone bad. I'm not really sure. It seems reasonable to expect a tone. I'm not saying that they didn't, but I'm just saying that hopefully I'll have better luck. Again, the fit and the finish on this guitar, you know, one dig on the Epiphone is it had really, really, really poorly finished fret ends, and it wasn't just typical fret sprout. I looked at them very carefully, and they just weren't trimmed very well, and they certainly weren't finished at all. And supposedly Epiphones come over from China and are opened up in Tennessee and re-inspected and set up before they're sent out. This guitar is exactly like it was sent from China. One other minor observation, purely cosmetic. They did a nice job on the binding on the body. It's an aged binding. Then you get up to the neck, and the neck is more of a white. And then you get to the net, and the net is more of a yellow. So it's sort of an interesting. And the Epiphone, again, doesn't have a bound neck, doesn't have bound F-holes. Again, these things don't really make any difference in the world of anything. It's purely cosmetic, but it does take a little more effort. I'm not sure if this is really a rosewood fingerboard. It's interesting looking, to say the least. It actually, to me, looks like laurel, but it's wood. It plays nice. It feels like it's potentially like it's been sealed. You can't really feel the pores. But again, friends, neighbors, ladies and gentlemen, for $169, one would expect that some things may not, you know, it's not a Gibson L5, and yet the wood grain, I'm just assuming that's not photo finish, that it's, you know, it's plywood, but it's not, you know, flame maple or anything, but it's pretty looking, and you can definitely see the hump. So it definitely qualifies as an arch, although a mild arch. And like I said, there's just little minor issues with the finish. So minor that it's not even worth mentioning. And I would have easily paid 3 times as much for this guitar and been really happy with it exactly as it exists. Because it's really that good. It may go down as being the bargain of the year. That being said, as I close out this video, as with every guitar I buy, the first day sometimes I really, really like a guitar, and as time goes on I like it less. Sometimes I don't like it that much on the first day, and I grow to like a guitar. Sometimes I find some glaring defect a day, 2, 3 days later that changes everything. At this point, the only thing I could even imagine making me want to send this guitar back is if for some reason the truss rod doesn't function properly. Other than that, I believe this is a keeper, and it's a potential that the Epiphone Century is going to go down the road, because this one just really, really is beautiful. So anyways, thank you for joining me very much. The Grote Jazz Electric Archtop Guitar from the Grote factory. And again, Grote, what a name. I think if they could have chosen anything else, but you know, as Shakespeare said, a rose by any other name still smells sweet, and I don't care what you call this guitar. It's an incredible value for what they're charging for it, and it's a very nice guitar. So anyways, thank you very much. Hopefully in a week or two we're going to be reviewing the Grote BB2 Club Bass, which is, like this one, is a copy, a simulation, a recreation of the Epiphone Century. The Grote BB2 bass, Club Bass, is a recreation and imitation, whatever you want to call it, of a Hofner hollow body bass. That is sitting in customs in San Francisco as we speak. Should be here in a week or two or three. And if the quality of that is even close to this, I'm sure I'm going to be really satisfied with that as well. So thank you very much.